The silent threat the galaxy was quiet, too quiet. The great empires, the trading clans, and the warrior races all agreed on one thing: peace had come at last. But peace in the galaxy was a fragile thing, and in the shadows, whispers grew louder. Whispers about a small blue world on the edge of the spiral arm. A world called Earth. Many alien powers dismissed it as nothing. Humans are weak, they said. They are young, barely stepping into the stars. But those who truly listened to history knew better. Humans had risen from fire and stone, fought endless wars among themselves, and survived against odds that would have crushed others. They had not been given their place in the stars. They had taken it. Now, one empire had made a decision. They would challenge humanity. Their fleets were larger, their weapons more advanced, and their numbers beyond counting. To them, humanity was prey, nothing more than a noisy new race in need of silence. Their leaders gave a single command: strike now, before the humans grow stronger. But humans had a way of sensing danger. On Earth's military stations, deep space sensors flickered with strange signals. A transmission was intercepted, faint, coded, and hostile. Officers studied it with growing fear. Someone was coming. Someone thought they could break humanity before it truly rose. Inside the command halls, a quiet meeting took place. No shouting, no fear, just calm voices and steady eyes. Humanity had been underestimated too many times in history. They had learned the hard way that survival never came from begging or hiding. It came from standing up, even against impossible odds. One officer spoke softly. If they challenge us, they must understand one thing: there is no escape, not for them. Across the stars, alien fleets moved closer, confident of their victory. They laughed at human ships' old designs, rusting hulls, engines that shook the void with primitive fire. To them, these were relics, not war machines. But they forgot something important. Humans had always fought with what they had, and somehow they always found a way to win. The first encounter happened near a lonely gas giant. A human patrol frigate picked up an unknown signal. Its crew tensed as the massive alien warship came into view. Its hull was covered in glowing lines, its weapons bristling like the spines of a beast. The alien commander opened a channel, his voice full of arrogance. Humans, turn back. This sector belongs to us now. You are not welcome here. The human captain stared at the screen. His ship was smaller, weaker, and slower. But he did not flinch. He simply replied, "This is human space. If you want it, you'll have to take it." The alien laughed. To him, this was already decided. He cut the channel and charged weapons. But the human crew moved fast. Shields flared, weapons locked, and the engines roared. The battle was uneven, hopeless to any outsider, but inside that frigate, the humans fought with a fire the aliens had never seen. When the dust cleared, the alien warship drifted in silence, broken and burning. The human ship, though scarred, was still alive. The message spread through the galaxy like fire. The humans did not run. They did not beg. They fought and they won. And deep within Earth's command halls, leaders prepared for what was to come. Because they knew this was only the beginning. They knew more fleets were coming. They knew an invasion was on its way. And they whispered words that would echo across every battlefield. Yet to come. Do not challenge humanity. You will never escape. The gathering storm. The news of the first clash spread fast, but not everyone believed it. Across alien councils, leaders shook their heads. It was luck, they said. One human ship against one warship. An accident of battle. It will not happen again. But deep inside, some of them began to worry. They had seen the recording of the human captain. His calm voice, his steady eyes, his refusal to yield. It was not luck. It was something else, something dangerous. Humanity, on the other hand, did not celebrate. There were no great parades, no cheering crowds. The people knew too well that one victory meant little when a storm was coming. And the storm was coming. Scouts reported entire fleets moving toward human colonies, each larger than the last. Dozens of alien races had joined the invasion, confident that overwhelming numbers would crush resistance in orbit above Earth. The sky was full of fire. Shipyards worked without rest, building new warships from old designs, upgrading ancient. Engines with raw human ingenuity. What humanity lacked in numbers, it made up for in will. Every pilot trained harder. Every engineer pushed further. Every commander planned deeper. On the outer colonies, settlers armed themselves. Farmers turned their machines into weapons. Miners dug tunnels not for ore, but for hiding places and traps. They knew they could not match the alien armies head on, but they could bleed them, slow them, make them regret every step. One colony in particular became a symbol. A world of endless plains and vast skies where human settlers had carved. A life out of dust and wind. Scouts warned them, the alien fleet is coming. But instead of fear, the people only tightened their grips on their rifles, welded armor to their tractors, and painted bold words across their bunkers. We will not run. The invasion arrived soon after. Massive ships blotted out the sun, their shadows stretching across the plains. Alien commanders expected a quick surrender, a frightened plea for mercy. Instead, the first bombardment was met with a thunder of anti-air fire, missiles streaking from hidden silos, and a swarm of human fighters rising like hornets from the dust. The aliens roared with fury. Primitive weapons cannot harm us. But one by one, their transports fell burning from the sky. The ground shook as alien soldiers landed in waves, but even then, the humans did not falter. They fought with rifles, blades, and bare hands if needed. They fought not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. High above, a human fleet rushed to defend the colony. The ships were old and patched, engines coughing smoke and fire, but they flew with deadly precision. Every pilot knew they might not return, and yet not one turned away. The alien flagship sent a transmission filled with rage. Surrender, humans. Your resistance is useless. A human commander, scarred and weary, leaned forward on his screen. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the battlefield. We are humans. Resistance is who we are. The words echoed through every channel. Soldiers in bunkers heard it and fought harder. Pilots in burning ships heard it and pushed forward. Even civilians, hiding in shelters, felt a surge of pride. The battle raged for hours, then days. The plains were scarred with fire. The skies choked with smoke. The aliens had the advantage in numbers, but every inch of land cost them blood. Every victory they claimed felt hollow, because behind every destroyed bunker, another human defense rose. Behind every fallen fighter, another pilot took to the sky. And then something strange happened. For the first time, the alien invaders hesitated. Their commanders, once so sure of victory, began to doubt. They had expected fear, surrender, easy triumph. But what they faced was something relentless, something unyielding. Humanity was not just defending land. Humanity was defending existence. In the great command halls of Earth, new reports arrived. The colony still stood. The fleet was battered, but it lived. Humanity was still in the fight. And across the stars, whispers grew louder. The message spread once more, carried on the winds of war. Do not challenge humanity, because you will never escape. Humanity strikes back the battle. For the colony had changed everything. The aliens had expected fear. Instead, they found fury. They had come to break humanity's will, but instead, they awakened it. Across Earth's command halls, Leaders watched the reports with grim eyes. The colony still held, but only just. The fleets had been bloodied, the ground forces battered, and the skies filled with wreckage. Humanity had proven it would not surrender, but survival alone was not enough. If humanity only defended, the enemy would keep coming until there was nothing left. One voice spoke above the rest. We cannot wait for them to crush us. We must strike back. We must remind them why we survived every war on Earth. We must show them what it means when humanity fights. So the plan was born. It was dangerous, reckless, perhaps even impossible. But humanity had always lived on the edge of impossible. The target was chosen, a massive alien supply station hidden near a dead star. From there, fleets refueled, armies resupplied, and war machines repaired. Without it, the invasion would slow, maybe even collapse. The fleet assembled in silence. Old battleships, patched cruisers, and nimble frigates gathered like wolves around a wounded prey. Their crews were tired, their ships scarred, but their eyes burned with the same fire. They knew this mission was no defense. This was a strike, a blow straight into the enemy's heart. When the human fleet emerged from warp, the alien station loomed before them, vast, armored, and guarded by dozens of warships. The aliens were confident, sure no human fleet would dare come here. The human commander's voice was steady as steel. We're not here to survive. We're here to win. No retreat, no escape. Forward. Engines flared, weapons roared. The human fleet charged like a storm unleashed. The aliens were stunned at first. They scrambled to form ranks, but the humans were already among them. Ships weaving between giants, striking at weak points with surgical precision. Every human ship carried the memory of fallen colonies. Every shot carried the weight of defiance. Explosions lit the void. Alien cruisers shattered under concentrated fire. Human frigates rammed larger ships, sacrificing themselves to tear open hulls. It was chaos, madness, yet somehow it was working. And then the humans revealed their true weapon. Hidden inside cargo holds, tucked behind armor plates, were swarms of small drones, each carrying explosives. They were crude, built from mining machines and repair bots, but guided with human ingenuity. Released into the battle, they scattered like angry sparks, slipping past defenses to strike at the station's weak points. The aliens panicked. Their mighty station trembled as explosions ripped through its fuel lines and power cores. The invaders had believed the humans were primitive, uncreative, bound by their limits. But in that moment, they saw the truth. Humans turned weakness into strength. They turned scraps into weapons. They turned desperation into victory. The station's core went critical. Flames tore through its massive frame as its defenses collapsed. Alien commanders screamed orders, but it was too late. The humans had broken the heart of their supply lines. As the station exploded in a blinding flash, the human fleet turned to escape. Many ships did not make it. Some burned in silence, others vanished in the fire. But those who survived carried the victory back to the stars. When news spread, the galaxy trembled. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not only resisted, they had struck back, and they had won. In the alien councils, voices of arrogance grew quiet. Fear crept into their hearts. For the first time, they began to question if this war could truly be won. And in the shadows, other races, small, oppressed, enslaved, listened closely. They whispered to each other, if the humans can fight back, maybe we can too. The words echoed across star systems, carried like a spark waiting to become a fire. Do not challenge humanity, you will never escape. Asterisk, the flames spread. The destruction of the alien supply station changed everything. For the first time in generations, the galaxy saw an empire bleed. Ships that were meant to resupply their war effort now drifted without fuel. Armies that expected endless support now faced shortages. Confidence turned into hesitation, but the humans did not rest. They knew the enemy was wounded, but not broken. New fleets were still coming, new armies still marching. Earth's leaders gathered once more, faces stern, voices steady. One commander said, "We cannot fight this war alone. The galaxy must see that the aliens are not invincible. They must see that they can fall." Those words carried far. Across the stars, races who had once been silent began to whisper louder. On broken worlds, slaves looked at the sky with hope. On distant stations, merchants wondered if humanity's fire might also protect them. The flames of resistance began to spread, but help did not come easily. Many feared the alien empire too much. They had seen what happened to those who stood against it. Entire civilizations had been erased, their histories burned away. To ally with humans was to invite destruction. Humanity understood. They did not beg. They simply sent a message. We will fight with or without you. But know this, the enemy is not unbreakable. If you stand with us, you may yet be free. Meanwhile, the alien empire raged. Their pride had been wounded there. Fleets embarrassed, their station destroyed. They swore vengeance. Massive armadas gathered, larger than any seen before, and at their head was a dreadnought, a city-sized warship built to crush entire worlds. When it entered human space, even, the bravest soldiers felt fear. Its weapons glowed like suns. Its shields pulsed with energy no human ship could match. The alien commander's voice thundered across the channels. Humans, your defiance ends here. Your colonies will burn, your fleets will scatter, and your world will kneel. But humanity did not kneel. On the outer edges of a star system, the human fleet prepared. Their ships were small, their weapons limited, but their strategy was sharp. They had studied the dreadnought. They knew its strength. They also saw its weakness, not in its armor or shields, but in its pride. The battle began. The dreadnought advanced like a monster, tearing through human cruisers, burning entire wings of fighters. It seemed unstoppable. But for every ship it destroyed, another came to strike again. For every fighter it swatted down, 3 more rose from the void. The humans fought like a tide, endless, relentless, wearing down even the mightiest enemy. And while the dreadnought's guns roared, small human frigates darted in and out, planting charges, striking at hidden joints, tearing away its defenses bit by bit. Hours turned into days. The dreadnought still floated, scarred but alive, while the human fleet dwindled. It seemed humanity would finally break. But then, something happened the aliens had not expected. Other ships appeared small, ragged, flying under different banners. They were not human ships. They belonged to alien races once conquered, once enslaved. Inspired by humanity's defiance, they had chosen to rise. A fleet of once broken allies joined the fight, their weapons firing alongside humans. Weak alone, but strong together, they pushed back. The dreadnought staggered under the combined assault, its shields flickering, its weapons failing. At last, a final wave of human fighters dove into the breach, carrying explosives strapped to their wings. They knew they would not return. They knew this was the end. The sky lit with a blinding flash. The dreadnought shuddered, its massive frame cracking apart, until finally it exploded into fire and silence. The galaxy gasped. The undefeatable weapon of the Empire had fallen, destroyed by humans and their new allies. For the first time, hope began to bloom across countless worlds. The idea spread faster than fire. If humanity could fight, anyone could. If humanity could win, so could they. And the words, whispered at first, but now shouted across the stars, burned into the heart of the galaxy. Do not challenge humanity. You will never escape. Asterisk the rising rebellion, the destruction of the dreadnought, sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For centuries, the alien empire had ruled with iron and fire, crushing any who dared to resist. But now, their mightiest warship was gone, destroyed not by a greater power, but by a younger race they had once called weak. On worlds long enslaved, whispers turned into action. Secret meetings in dark tunnels became open rallies in city. Streets, banners of rebellion rose where once there had been only silence. The galaxy had seen something it could no longer ignore. Humanity had drawn blood from the Empire. The humans themselves did not rest. Their fleets were thin, their colonies scarred, but their spirit burned brighter than ever. And now they were not alone. Ships from smaller races began to arrive at human ports, fragile, outdated, sometimes little more than transports, with guns strapped to their hulls. But they carried something more important than weapons. They carried courage. In Earths command halls, leaders looked at the growing fleet with cautious hope. It was not unity yet, not a true alliance, but it was the beginning. A voice echoed through the chamber. If we fight together, we are not prey. We are a storm. But storms are never born without cost. The Empire, humiliated and enraged, unleashed its fury. Whole planets were burned to ash. Colonies that dared to show human flags were bombarded until nothing remained. The message was clear. Stand with humanity, and you will be destroyed. And yet, the destruction only hardened resolve. For every world that burned, 3 more rose in defiance. The rebellion spread like wildfire, too fast for the Empire to contain. Guerrilla fighters struck from hidden bases. Merchant fleets smuggled weapons where once they smuggled goods. Even slaves on Empire ships turned against their masters, seizing control in sudden uprisings. The humans taught them how to fight, not with massive fleets or endless armies, but with cunning. They taught them how to use every scrap, every tool, every weakness. They showed them how to turn broken ships into deadly traps, how to fight in the shadows, how to never surrender even when defeat seemed certain. The Empire responded with terror. They sent fleet after fleet, armies without number, determined to crush the rebellion before it spread further. Battles burned across the stars. Some were victories, others were bitter losses. But through it all, one truth grew stronger. Humanity was no longer alone. One of the turning points came at a world of ice and storms, where human ships and their new allies held a fragile defense against an Empire armada. The enemy outnumbered them 5 to 1. Every calculation said they would be destroyed, but the humans did not calculate, they adapted. They lured the Empire ships into the storm, where sensors failed and shields flickered. In the chaos, small rebel ships darted between giants, striking from the shadows. When the storm cleared, half the Empire fleet was gone, and the rebels still stood. The victory was small compared to the scale of the war, but its meaning was massive. It told the galaxy that the Empire could be defeated not only by humans, but by anyone willing to fight. Soon, rebellions broke out in regions the Empire thought secure. Mines stopped producing, factories went silent, and outposts declared independence. What had begun as a single war between one empire and one young race had become something far larger. It had become a galactic uprising. Through it all, humanity remained at the center. Not the strongest, not the richest, not the oldest, but the most relentless. They carried scars, but they never stopped. They lost worlds, but they always rose again. And the galaxy began to see what the Empire had failed to understand. Humans did not fight because they loved war. They fought because they refused to kneel in the quiet of a command hall. As new reports of rebellion arrived, one officer whispered words that were now known. across the stars. Do not challenge humanity. You will never escape. Asterisk the Empire's last gamble, the galaxy was burning. Across star systems, rebellion spread like fire through dry fields. Once quiet planets now rang with the sound of war. Slaves broke their chains. Old enemies stood shoulder to shoulder. Merchants, who once feared the Empire, now carried weapons for the cause. And at the center of it all was humanity. The young race that had been mocked, underestimated, and nearly destroyed was now the spark for a storm the Empire could no longer contain. But the Empire was not finished. Not yet. Wounded pride and centuries of dominance demanded one final strike. They would gather their greatest armada, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They would bring their last weapon, one so terrible it had been kept in silence, hidden in the darkness of forbidden space. Whispers called it the World Breaker, a machine forged not to fight ships, but to erase planets. Its engines burned brighter than suns. Its weapons could tear atmospheres apart, and its shadow could cover continents. To the Empire, it was the final answer. Humanity would be erased. Earth shattered into dust, and the rebellion crushed with fear. When news of the World Breaker spread, even the bravest allies trembled. Some spoke of retreat. Others whispered that the humans had gone too far, that the Empire's wrath was now unstoppable. But the humans did not tremble. They gathered in their command halls, maps glowing with star systems, and their leaders spoke with calm fire. They think this weapon will break us, but weapons do not win wars. Will wins wars, and our will cannot be broken. The rebellion, prepared for the coming storm. Ships gathered from every corner of free space. Some were massive, others barely held together, but all carried hope. Fighters painted their hulls with the colors of resistance. Soldiers swore oaths not to flee. Even civilians joined, turning transports into decoys, miners into gunners, farmers into scouts. And then the sky darkened. The Empire's armada arrived. Thousands of warships spread across the stars, their formation like a wall of steel. In the center, the World Breaker loomed a giant among giants, its core glowing with power, its weapons ready to burn worlds. Human fleet faced them, small, scarred, and outnumbered. Yet not one ship turned away. Across the comms, a human commander's voice cut through the silence. Asterisk, they believe we should be afraid. They believe we should run, but we are human. And when we are pushed to the edge, we fight harder. Today, we do not fight for survival. Today, we fight so the galaxy will never kneel again. The battle erupted. The Empire's armada unleashed fire like a storm. Human and rebel ships scattered, dodging blasts that could crack moons. Explosions tore through the void. Entire wings of fighters vanished in flashes of light, but the humans struck back. They fought not with brute force, but with cunning. Fleets lured the Empire's ships into traps, sacrificed decoys to expose weak points, and turned every asteroid and starfield into a weapon. The rebellion moved like a swarm, overwhelming larger ships with relentless strikes. Still, the World Breaker advanced, its weapon charged, light building in its core until it outshone the stars. Its first shot cut through space like the hand of a god, tearing apart a rebel fleet in an instant. Thousands of lives vanished, and the galaxy shuddered. Yet, even in despair, the humans pressed forward. They had studied the weapon, searched for flaws, and they found one. The World Breaker's core required enormous energy, leaving its shield vulnerable in short bursts after every strike. The plan was made in seconds. A wave of human ships threw themselves into the fire, drawing the Empire's guns, buying time. Behind them, a squadron of fighters prepared for the impossible. They would dive straight into the heart of the monster. Asterisk engines roared. Pilots tightened grips on their controls. They knew they would not return, But their sacrifice could save entire worlds. The fighters streaked toward the world breaker, weaving through enemy fire, skimming past its glowing cannons. One by one, they fell burned, broken, gone. But a few reached the gap, diving into the unshielded core. The void exploded in light. The world breaker shuddered as fire ripped through its heart. Its massive frame cracked, engines flaring out of control. The Empire's ultimate weapon screamed as it collapsed in on itself, then burst into silence. The rebellion watched in awe. The impossible had been done. The weapon meant to erase humanity was gone, destroyed by the very people it sought to kill. And as the Empire's fleets faltered, voices rose across every channel, human and alien alike, shouting the words now carved into history. Do not challenge humanity, you will never escape. Asterisk the fall of the Empire. The world breaker's destruction shook the galaxy like thunder. The weapon that was meant to erase humanity had become nothing more than debris drifting in the void. The Empire's fleets, once proud and unstoppable, faltered, in confusion and fear. For centuries, they had crushed every rebellion, silenced every cry for freedom. But now they faced something they had never known before defeat. The rebels did not let the moment pass. Human ships and their allies surged forward, striking hard while the enemy staggered. What had begun as survival now became a counterattack. Battles erupted across the Empire's territory, and this time the outcome was different. On one world, slaves rose from the mines, armed with stolen weapons, shouting the words they had heard from human transmissions. We will not kneel. On another, merchant fleets turned against their former masters, their guns firing not for profit but for freedom. Everywhere, the Empire's grip began to slip. The humans led from the front. They did not claim thrones or demand tribute. They fought side by side with every race that dared to rise. Their commanders shared tactics, their engineers rebuilt ships for others, and their soldiers bled in the same trenches as those they fought beside. To many, this was the greatest shock of all. Humanity did not seek conquest, they sought survival, and through survival, they brought hope. The Empire tried one last desperate move. In the central world of their domain, their ruling council gathered what forces remained. They declared that the rebellion would end there, in one final battle. And so, the galaxy's eyes turned to that system. The Empire's capital fortified, with fleets defended by orbital guns, shielded by towers of fire. It was said no force could ever reach its surface. But the humans came. The rebel fleet poured into the system, countless banners flying together for the first time. Human ships at the front, alien allies at their sides, all moving as one. The battle was chaos, fire and steel across the stars, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Empire fought with pride, but pride could not match the fury of those who had been denied freedom for too long. At last, the defenses broke. The capital's shields fell, its guns silenced, its fleets shattered. Human marines and rebel soldiers landed together, storming the halls where the Empire had ruled for centuries. Inside, the rulers of the Empire waited. They had believed themselves untouchable, eternal, but now they trembled. They asked for mercy, for negotiation, for surrender. The human commander looked at them and spoke in the same calm voice that had echoed across countless battles. You thought humanity would kneel. You thought we would beg. You thought we would run. But we are human. We do not kneel. We do not run. And today, your empire ends. The council fell. The banners of the Empire were torn down, and the galaxy changed forever. In the weeks that followed, a new age began. Worlds once enslaved now stood free. Old enemies became allies. The rebellion became a coalition, bound not by fear but by choice. At its center stood humanity, not rulers, not conquerors, but the race that had refused to give up. Across the stars, stories spread of battles fought, of sacrifices made, of victories won against all odds. Children on distant worlds repeated the words their parents had whispered in secret for years, now spoken with pride in the open. Do not challenge humanity. You will never escape. The galaxy would never forget, for humanity had proven something greater than power. They had proven that courage, will, and unity could topple even the mightiest empire. And in doing so, they had written their name into the stars, not as invaders, but as survivors, as fighters, as the spark that set a galaxy-free dot. And so, when the void grew quiet once more, and the fires of war finally dimmed, one truth remained, a truth carved into history, carried in the hearts of every free world. Humanity was here to stay.